Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Shields. Welcome to Next in Media. We're here live in Cannes. This is part of my special series with Walmart Connect. I'm here with Ann Harrell. She is the head of product enablement at Pacvue. Ann, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's dive right into the weeds right away here.
Right.
Tons of retail media companies here. It's a huge booming category. The thing you hear about, among a lot of things, is the closed loop attribution when you get started is amazing, but then you're trying to figure out the how to apply that awesome retail media attribution to broader channels, to like the site by site siloed basis. What's the challenge there for you? How do you figure out incrementality?
That's a big question. I think the biggest challenge is data availability. Most people are advertising on these walled gardens. And so within the walled gardens, it's very easy to do closed loop measurement to see what's working and what's not.
You mentioned, how many are you plugged into these days?
So Pacvue has over 90 different retailer platforms that we're connected to, either for the retailer relationship directly or through aggregators like Pretty Citrus and Instacart and IGOS. There's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot to make sense of.
Yes. A lot to make sense of, a lot to measure. And so it can be quite difficult to do so. The one way that we found that really does allow for more data flexibility is the use of data clean rooms, because you can share more granular data sets in a privacy safe way, which will allow you to look at your data differently, to pivot, to use things like multi-touch attribution, which can be the basis for incrementality models. So that's definitely a tool in advertisers' arsenal, and we have data clean room activations within Pacvue that allow you to do that. There's still some limitations in terms of data sharing across retailer platforms that have to be considered, but all in, we believe that the expansion of data clean rooms and the ability to do kind of advanced modeling and custom modeling within them is the answer to incrementality.
Okay, so probably a hard question, but what is more challenging? Is it measuring is it attribution across a retailer's whole portfolio? Is it expand, or is it harder to see everybody across all these different players?
I think the biggest challenge is cross-channel, cross-platform. Most of the retailers are incentivized to allow you to see the different channels within their networks. They are very much the opposite of incentivized to share that data across. And so getting that unlock from retailers really requires telling the brand story. And what's most important to note for retailers, brands alike, when you have this type of cross-channel measurement, it typically leads to higher budgets long-term. Because when you're able to measure...
So there's something in it for them to push for them.
Yeah. So telling that story, getting the correct approval, that's the most difficult part. But intra-platform, it's actually quite easy to do things like incrementality modeling, which we've done for retailers in Pacvue. We have Amazon, we have Target, where we basically create custom models with the data that is available so that you're not trying to have a one-size-fits-all incrementality methodology. That's not going to apply to every retailer because of the differences in things like data and attribution.
Now, what about a lot of the bigger players, particularly Amazon, Walmart, maybe Instacart, throw them in there? They're talking about this. They're talking a lot more about full funnel and trying to, help. They want to be part of all budgets and all parts of the customer journey. That seems like a good thing, but I wonder if it's harder to fit that into the retail media box we've kind of set up. What kind of challenges come there, and is that something that you're seeing a lot of traction?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because I think at Pacvue and the industry at large, the idea of retail media is changing. We see very much so that the lines between retail, social, traditional search, upper funnel, lower funnel, they're all kind of blurring, right? It's all becoming a channel for commerce. And so while we do see retailers want to play in the upper funnel or in the non-endemic game, we think that's actually quite possible. For instance, we just launched our TikTok connection. We would say TikTok is a friendly to all retailers because it's discovery commerce. And what happens after a product is discovered? It's purchased either on TikTok or on another channel.
So, nice to interrupt you, but I wonder about this, you don't view social shopping as like a totally different animal, like that retail media plays one here and that's like a social influencer budget. That's not how you're looking at it, at least.
Not anymore. I feel like it originally started that way, and you'll still see teams structured that way, right? Where you have your social strategy and you have your traditional search strategy, and then you have your retail media strategy. But more and more, as more platforms arise, as the need to solve for fragmentation exists, and as a consolidated strategy becomes more important, we're seeing that all become one long commerce strategy. And when you think about it, it always has been, right? It's just us now removing the barriers between these different segments so that they can act towards one goal, as opposed to having different goals, different teams. But in reality, you're all trying to increase the sales of that brand.
I guess I tend to think of, and maybe I'm wrong, but brands can't predict or engineer social shopping as well as they can target somebody who's shopping on a Walmart app, and it's pretty straightforward.
Right.
You're finding there's a little bit more consistency, or you could be more strategic in TikTok and other places.
Yeah. So it's hard to engineer social strategy organically. There's ways to do it. It takes a specific touch, but you'll see that a lot of platforms, TikTok's a great example, are introducing kind of an in-between strategy, like shop ads is what we would support, which you use the creative that you would use in an organic situation. So it's created by a creator or by your brand team. So it actually ties back to a product, and you control things like the audience, the bids, various bid modifications that you can add in to make sure you're fine-tuning who you're reaching and reaching them at the right moment. And then you can also apply certain tracking to these types of campaigns so that you can track it back to Amazon, Walmart, Target, and see the impact. So once you are able to track and refine, I would say that it's definitely something you can optimize.
Okay. Lastly, obviously Amazon is the giant in this category, and their advantage is that they can touch customers in so many different places between Prime and sports and Amazon. You see, Walmart made a big move, getting into television with Vizio. I wonder, I guess, what are you seeing from that relationship? Can they contend in that same kind of space? And might we see other retailers kind of push in that direction?
Absolutely. I think what Walmart's doing is they're building an ecosystem. And I think that's the right play in this modern world that we're all living in for retail media and commerce in general. The reason for that is, while search is so important, the baseline, the point of conversion is so important. To get people to that point of conversion, you have to build up the funnel. And that's exactly what Walmart's doing. They released on-site display recently, which Pacvue integrated with, which allows you to have that kind of on-site programmatic strategy. They have a connection to the trade desk where you can have off-site and non-endemic inventory through Walmart. And now with even more upper funnel when you get into streaming and CTV, which is a great way to get a lot of reach. And then that reach will trickle down into the display, which will trickle down into the search, which will ultimately increase your sales. So by creating an ecosystem, you're really building a funnel for people to optimize without having to go outside of the Walmart network, which benefits both Walmart and the customer, because as we, talked about at the start of this, the closed loop measurement is easier when it's all within one retailer platform.
I guess the question over time is, how many of those 70 plus partners can build an ecosystem? Do they have to join forces, or is there some kind of limited play there? We'll see what happens.
I think it's timing, and also I think we're already seeing many of them join forces. I mentioned earlier that a lot of our inventory comes through aggregators. Those aggregators are them joining forces, and they have the power to create this kind of network. So even if you're a small player, I don't think all hope is lost.
All right, awesome stuff, Ann. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.